Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. It's Friday on my show, so we're going to be talking to someone from the SuperTalk Mississippi News team in the second half of the show. I think we have Kelly Bennett today. And in the first half, we got Jeff Duncan like we always do. So let me bring Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune into the conversation and just say good morning. How you doing, my friend?
Doing great, Ricky. Great to see you. And I think I told you I was going up through Mississippi last week for my nephew's wedding, and it was great to see all the SuperTalk signs. I saw a bunch of billboards. I listened to the radio station throughout my trip. So, yeah, it was great to see that. Great to be a part of it.
Hey, where did you end up watching the game? You were going to, on your way back, you were going to have to stop somewhere and watch the game.
Yeah, I was picking between Oxford, Jackson, and Starkville, and it all really depended on when I could get back, and I ended up in Starkville at a nice walk-ons there. Unfortunately, the Saints did not prevail, but it was a good setup for me to be able to watch the game and have my laptop out and do all the work I needed to do during the game. So I think I counted up the other day, that's the fifth game in 26 years that I've missed. So it was kind of rare for me not to be there.
Well, I saw, too, that you still were doing interviews on NOLA.com from your car, so they were engaging you in a big way. But you officiated your nephew's wedding. How did that go?
It actually, I think it went okay. I don't think I ruined the occasion. That was my only goal, was to not, destroy my nephew's wedding. And it was a little different. I do a lot of public speaking, so I'm not really nervous in that way. But it's different in that when I do TV work, you have a teleprompter, Ricky, so that everything's there on a script for you for the most part. This was more, felt like back in my old theatrical days and high school plays where you have to memorize lines. I had a lot to memorize in speaking. It wasn't a big wedding. It was only about 100 people, so that helped a little bit. But it was beautiful weather, outdoors, right up near the land between the lakes, if you're familiar with that area in Tennessee and Kentucky near the border. Beautiful area, lots of state and national parks up there. A lake, the beautiful lakes, Barkley and Kentucky Lake. And I hadn't been there in a long time, so it was really fun for me to go back and to perform those duties was fun. So now I got a side gig. If anybody needs a wedding official, I can take care of you.
Well, for you, it's kind of like going home, isn't it? It feels very familiar to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I tell you, that's a beautiful part of the country. I forgot about how pretty Kentucky Lake. Those are massive lakes up there. And it's very, kind of rural country, but really beautiful, beautiful country. And it was nice to get back and see my nephew. Obviously, he's a lieutenant in the Memphis Fire Department. Very proud of him. And his whole station was there. And it gave me actually a lot of hope about the future of our country when I was around these guys. I mean, they were just so mannerly, and you could tell they're, servant people. And they just were amazing group of guys. Made me feel good about where we're going.
Okay, so looking back on the Buffalo Bills game, as a spectator, as a huge fan, especially considering the week they had before, I thought the Saints brought it, man. I mean, it was a good game, considering they could have really fallen off the cliff. They came to play. They were prepared. And just in terms of being an enjoyable game to watch, it was fun. You as a critic, you have to have been pleased with some of what you saw.
Well, I thought they would play better. Usually when you have a stinker like they had in Seattle, I mean, that resonates. You got a whole week to stew on that. We saw Atlanta do the same thing. They stunk it up against Carolina, came back and beat Washington. So I knew they would play better and play with more energy, enthusiasm, and that was important, and they did. And I thought Kellen Moore called a really good game. I mean, I think they're finding a little bit of an identity. And, now we're through 4 weeks. I think we're kind of learning exactly what this team is going to be, what they're going to kind of, their strengths and weaknesses. And I think he found a little bit of offensive identity in that game, running the ball. They had success on the ground. They were able to, force a big turnover. I think the rookie safety, Jonas Sanker, played extremely well in that game. That should be, exciting for fans to see some of these rookies get on the field and not only play, but make plays. He and Kelvin Banks were two of the top graded players on their whole team. Both are rookies. And Quincy Riley, the cornerback, is working his way into the rotation. I mean, I think he's going to be starting soon. So you're going to have a lot of young players getting some valuable reps right now. And I think that's the way to go because, as we've talked about before, this is definitely a transition year, a rebuilding year. And I think every rep is going to be valuable for the future of some of these young players on the roster.
Well, you see Quincy, as you pointed out, emerging. And Kool-Aid, to some extent, has been a disappointment, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's getting targeted a lot. I think I saw, according to Pro Football Focus, he's got the 8th worst passer rating against him of any defensive back in the league, up, really high. I think he's been targeted 16 times and 12 have been completions. So that's definitely a disappointment. And the whole pass defense is a huge area of concern. I think I pointed out the other day on social media, their opposing quarterbacks have like a 119 passer rating against the Saints. That would be an NFL record if it holds up. What's amazing about that is that there's 2 other teams in the league worse than them right now, the Cowboys and the Dolphins. So it's some bad defenses in the league right now. That's an area that they've got to get better at. I think that'll help when Chase Young, if he eventually does come back. I mean, I'm starting to wonder. But when he does come back, that pass rush is not quite there yet. They did get to Josh Allen a little bit. Carl Granderson has been the one force there. I think when you add in Chase Young to the mix, suddenly you have 2 guys that can get to the quarterback. I think that'll help a lot in, as far as like not having to cover as long on the back end because they do work in coordination. But I like the energy and effort. Buffalo, it felt like, I don't want to take anything away from the Saints, but it felt like they kind of had their C game, and they just kind of won the game. They had to do what they had to do. They kind of kicked it in when they had to. But it's still a step in the right direction, and that's important right now at the stage of Kellen Moore's tenure.
You mentioned Granderson. Man, he keeps playing like this. He's going to have to get paid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he got paid a couple years ago, but he's definitely playing well. I mean, he looks like he's added some tools to his pass rush repertoire, and that's important because, the league evolves. Everybody gets used to. But he's also lost a lot of weight. He and Chase Young both fitting into this new scheme got down to really what their playing weight should be. They were bulking up to play in the 4-3, to fit that scheme. And now they're down like 255. And if you look back at Carl Granderson when he came out of Wyoming, he was like 245. So I think that's helped him in a lot of ways. And the league's kind of going that way, to be honest with you. It's becoming more athletic, smaller defenses, covering the whole field because offenses are making you cover every square inch. So you got to be able to run. And that certainly is, I think, paid off for him.
We've also got some youth at linebacker, and we're starting to see some promise there as well.
Well, Danny Stutzman hasn't really worked much into the regular rotation, but where he is making a difference is on special teams. I think he's their leading tackler on special teams right now. And he and Isaiah Stallbird, who I wrote about earlier this year, both 2 young prospects there. Demario Davis did not have one of his better games. He actually rated very poorly in that game, very surprising. And, obviously had that missed tackle that led to the opening touchdown. That's just a rare thing. You don't see Demario Davis miss a tackle like that very often in the open field. And that was one that I was a little critical of because if you watch that play again, Ricky, you'll see some guys not running to the football. And that's exactly why you run to the football. You think, okay, that's Demario Davis, a Pro Bowl linebacker. He's got him. And everybody kind of pulls up. And when that guy shakes free, he runs 40 yards for a touchdown. If you're running full bore with full effort, that you tackle him as soon as he gets by Demario. Those things are areas they've got to get better at because they're just not talented enough to overcome things like that.
Hey, listen, we'll stay on the defensive side of the ball for a minute. When we come back, we'll kind of drill down on offense a little bit more. But the new defense the Saints are running, you've done a good job of describing it. It's about trying to keep everything in front of you and stopping the big play. But they've done a pretty good job at that, haven't they?
Yeah, that's something that the scheme concentrates on, and they force you to kind of go down the field in drips and drabs as opposed to big chunks. And when you get an experienced offense like Buffalo, they can do that because they've got an experienced quarterback. Watching Josh Allen in that game reminded me so much of Drew Brees in his prime. He was the best player on the field, and when they had to have it, when his team needed him, he just took over. And that's the way Drew used to do all the time in those kind of games. He'd run when he needed to and have a back-breaking scramble, and then he'd, complete a big pass. He's just an elite player, but the Saints made them work for it. I thought, Buffalo ran the ball pretty well. That running back, James Cook, is an elite player as well. That's really the difference when you start looking at these teams like that. You just see elite players like James Cook and Josh Allen, and the Saints really, they don't have any of those elite players right now. That's really the difference in these kind of games.
It is very notable. And of course, I've been watching the HBO series that featured Buffalo this year. And you got to know a lot of the players and how they came together and how they're coached and just how phenomenal a leader Josh Allen is. I mean, you talk about leading by example. This is literally what that guy does. Got all the skill sets, but they take nothing for granted, man. They are focused on the basics all the time, man. This team does not leave anything for chance. And that's what, that's coming back to your point. They probably did not take this game as seriously as they needed to. They won it, but that was the bottom line. When we come back, we'll talk about the offense with Jeff Duncan. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We have Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, and we're talking about the Saints. Let's talk about the offensive side of the ball. We'll talk about quarterback here in just a second, but if there's a headline for this game, in my opinion, it's Kendre Miller. And I wish he was in the game more. I mean, isn't he leading the lead in yards after he's been touched by a defensive player? He looks sharp as hell, man. I wish we could see him more.
Yeah, and I think you will probably going forward. I think the stat is a Pro Football Focus kind of a signature metric that they use. They call it elusivity or elusiveness rating, and he leads the league in that. And that combines forcing missed tackles, yards after contact. I don't know if he leads the league in yards after contact just because he hasn't carried as many as some of his competitors, but he's definitely leading the league in that elusive rating. And I think their metric says he's forced 12 missed tackles and he's only had 28 carries. So that shows you how difficult he is to bring down. He's got a rare mix of explosiveness and power. He's got very strong legs and he runs with a low center of gravity, a lot like Alvin Kamara, but he's a little bigger and obviously a little more explosive at this stage of his career. And he's eventually going to be the lead back here. It may happen during a transition this year, but you can see he's coming on. He's starting to be more comfortable in the offense, and the Saints are finding ways to get him the ball, while also obviously still using Alvin Kamara. That's become the strength of the team. You can see the passing game still a little sporadic, whether it's Chris Olave, not making the catch or the inaccuracy of Spencer Rattler. And I think eventually that's going to be an issue that they have to address, whether that means going to Tyler Shuck or not. But, I think at this point we know Spencer Rattler is what he is. And those inaccuracy moments like the pass to Brandon Cooks behind him, those are killers, and you have to complete those at the NFL level. And so right now I think they're leaning as much as they can on the running game and those two running backs.
Yeah, we haven't had – look, we're stopping the big play on defense. We're just not having the big play on offense. But, as you pointed out, one of the things that makes Josh Allen great, one of the things that made Drew Brees so great, you literally wrote the book on Drew Brees and Sean Payton. It's in those moments that count. They don't miss. And we've seen misses. And I don't know how you correct that. Is that inexperience or is that just what we have? And as you pointed out, at some point we got to try to figure out, does Tyler Shuck bring something to the table that in those moments that we're not seeing now? How long do we wait?
Yeah, here's the thing I think that's going on is they're managing the game to try and stay in the game because they kind of know that they're in a talent deficit against most teams. So they're trying to, be risk averse, right? So I have to say that's one thing that Spencer Rattler's done a very good job of. He really hasn't turned the ball over much. He's kept them in the game. This team can't afford to turn it over. So they're avoiding those big mistakes. He's avoiding a lot of sacks too with his legs. He's been very good at being decisive and running, and also showing very good open field running skills. I don't think I quite knew he had that ability. So he's done some good things. I think you see the weakness in his game is his accuracy and his anticipation. What that really is more of a timing thing. He's got to throw that ball to Cooks faster. It's got to come out quicker to where it hits into that window while he's emerging into the window. And instead, he's waiting till he almost sees him emerge in the window. And by the time you throw it there, it's going to be behind him. That's happened, constantly. If you remember the turnover that Alvin Kamara had against the 49ers, that was behind him as well. So those at the NFL level, it seems like it's just a small thing, like an inch or two, but that is what has to be done at the NFL level. You can't afford to make those kind of mistakes, especially on the gimmies like the one to Alvin Kamara. So I don't know if they're ready to make a change, but I think if it doesn't get better, and look, there's opportunities here. You got the Giants coming to town, a 1-3 team. Obviously, they don't have Malik Neighbors now, who's by far their best offensive player. So there's an opportunity to get on the right track, and Spencer Rattler can keep his job. But there's also, I think, another side of you drafted Tyler Shuck in the second round for a reason. Is there, at some point, do you see what you have there? I think you don't want to end this season not knowing what you have in Tyler Shuck. And I think we all know right now what you have in Spencer Rattler. So at some point, they have to get that answer before they go into next year in this NFL draft.
Why do you think Shaheed has not had a bigger impact?
Well, he's been open. I think part of the frustration right now is they've had some opportunities downfield. There's been Rashid Shaheed. If you go back and watch early in this first quarter, he breaks open on a well-designed play, a double move, and for whatever reason, either Rattler didn't see him, didn't feel comfortable with it, but he didn't throw it. He bailed on the pocket and eventually ends up hitting Shaheed along the sideline. You might remember it was right in front of the Saints bench for about a 15-yard gain. It looks great, right? 15-yard gain, first down. Should have been a touchdown. He was wide open, and by the time Rattler got to him, it ended up being, a 15-yard gain. Those are the frustration things that I think you and I might not be seeing in live action on a TV, but trust me, the coaches are seeing, when they watch the game film, because that play should be a big explosive play. They're not getting enough of those. I think they only have one play over 20 yards all year. And it's just difficult to win and execute at a high level, putting together 10-play drives against these NFL defenses.
Hey, when you look at Olave and the way he's playing, you think about how he was playing before he had a severe concussion and kind of where he is now. Is he the same player, Jeff?
He looks like to me like he's thinking a little bit about it, and I think that's probably natural. It's really kind of tough to see because this is a big year for Chris Olave. I mean, personally in his life, getting back on the field, but it's his opportunity to showcase his ability to earn that second paycheck, which would be very lucrative. That second contract in the NFL is where you make your basically your life-changing money. He was on track to do that before the concussions, and he's not having the year. He's caught a lot of passes, but he's very few yards associated with that. And I don't know if another team, if say the Saints don't reward him with a long-term deal, I don't know of another team that's going to do it either right now, because you're just seeing a guy that I think clearly you're seeing a player that's not a number one receiver in this league. And that's probably where he was on track to be before the concussions.
Listen, on the play where he threw the ball and got intercepted, I like the play.
I did too.
I was happy about that. Just a poorly thrown ball, but
yeah, I tell you what I think happened on that play. If you go back and watch it, the corner on that side of the field where Olave was, Bernard, who ended up, I think he's the one that made, Bishop made the interception. He read the play. What he did is he read Olave moving in motion. He was following Olave, thinking maybe he was going to run it. And what happened is when Olave got the ball, he immediately threw the ball because he had some pressure in his face, and he just kind of panicked. He's not a quarterback, obviously. But the player that ended up making the interception was really just following Olave to tackle him in case it was a double reverse run. And Olave just kind of floated it and gave him time to make it. He made a great play, but I don't think he read the pass. I think he read Olave moving in motion was staying with him, and then the ball just came to him kind of, and he made a great one-handed play.
Yeah.
That was obvious. That was a chance to take the lead, and then they had another chance to take the lead late on the Cooks play. So that's where this team is right now. They can't quite get over the hump. I wrote about it. They've only led for 4 minutes in the entire season. They blocked 3 games in a row now. They've never even had a lead. I had this other stat. I mean, they've had 43 offensive possessions this year, and 39 of them they've been trailing with the ball. They've never had the ball with the lead all year. So you can't play catch up in the league successfully. It's just too difficult to do. So they've got to somehow start quick, get a lead, and put the pressure on the other team a little bit.
Okay, so we got less than 2 minutes left. Where are we headed with Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau?
Well, they're back at practice, which is a good sign. It's kind of where I thought they'd be right when October started. That was kind of the timeline. So now begins the clock of, they practice, and the Saints have 3 weeks now to get them on the active roster. So I think you'll see that happen as they get acclimated to being back on the field. It's not going to happen this week. They'll give them a few weeks, but I think probably about around that week 3, they'll probably get back into playing in these games, which is a great sign for the Saints, obviously.
Maybe they can gel. It's going to be interesting. A lot of hype around Jackson Dart right now. He's, when you talk about the kind of offense that they're running, very similar to the Saints. Actually, they're going to try to move fast. They're going to try to go. They're going to do a lot of RPO. It's going to be an interesting challenge for the Saints, isn't it?
Yeah, and it looks like Ruiz. Ruiz will not be playing this week. He's down with a ankle injury. He's going to be out for a few weeks. That's going to be the key to the whole game. Is can the Saints move the ball on that defensive front for the Giants? They're loaded with elite players on their defensive line. They really dominated up front against the Chargers, a very good playoff level team. That, to me, is where the game is going to be won or lost. Can the Saints run the ball in that front and keep Spencer Rattler clean in the pocket?
Going to be interesting as usual. But it's only been 4 games, and we've had a lot to look at, and I think the Saints are going to play some really good games as we go forward. They may not win them all. They're not going to win them all. But it's not a stinker either, like we saw a couple of weeks ago. Just been a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, Ricky. Take care.
Yeah, we'll see you after this break.